Have you ever felt the world shift when no one else was watching? Welcome to Unearthed Secrets, where stone, sky, and silence carry memories older than our history. Before we begin, please like, subscribe, and tell us where and what time you're watching from. Now let's step into the places that have waited lifetimes for someone to listen. The doorway of sleeping falcons. The desert around Siwa greets sunrise like an old friend, slowly, reverently, as if remembering every dawn the world has ever had. The sky deepens from indigo to soft apricot, the color of crushed stone washed with light, and shadows stretch long across the sand before dissolving into gold. Everything here moves gently. Even the air seems to awaken in careful exhalations, brushing across dunes and palm fronds with a tenderness unique to ancient oases. You stand at the edge of a valley carved not by water, but by centuries of stillness. Siwa is not loud with history, it whispers. Each fold of the land seems to lean in, sharing secrets in low breath, too soft to disturb the morning. In the distance, limestone cliffs gleam pale pink under the rising sun. Between them runs an old path, faint, half swallowed by drifting sand, but still unmistakably deliberate. This path leads to the doorway. The Siwans call it Bab el Nam el Sukur, the doorway of sleeping falcons. No one knows exactly who carved it, or when, or why. But every elder in the oasis will tell you the same thing: do not wake it too quickly. You walk slowly, letting the desert set the pace. The sand beneath your feet is cool, soft. Grain by grain it sighs under your steps, rising in little puffs that shimmer briefly before drifting back into place. There is a scent in the air: dry salt, warm stone, and the faint sweetness of date palms carried from the oasis behind you. Ahead, the cliffs narrow, forming a corridor of pale rock. As you approach, the world grows quieter. Even the small birds that dart between palm groves and cliffs seem to avoid this stretch of land, as if the silence is sacred or fragile. You reach the shade of the corridor. The temperature shifts, cooler, still, more ancient. Your footsteps echo faintly between the limestone walls, though you never step harder than before. The corridor curves gently, hiding what lies ahead until the final bend. And then you see it. A massive stone doorway carved directly into the cliff face, not open, not closed, simply present, as if always waiting. Two huge vertical pillars of limestone rise from the sand, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of wind. Above them sits a single lintel stone, balanced so perfectly it appears to float. Its carvings are faint, softened by age, but not erased. They shimmer in the shifting light like the shadows of wings. The falcons, rows of them carved in a style older than the oldest temple in Siwa, stretch across the lintel. Some face inward, some outward, some downward. Their wings are tucked, their eyes closed. These falcons are not hunting, not soaring. They are sleeping. You step closer and place your hand on one of the pillars. It is warm. Not warm from the sun. The sun has barely risen high enough to touch this place. No, this warmth feels stored, as if held deep inside the stone. A pulse trembles faintly beneath your palm. Not movement, not sound. A presence. You breathe slowly. The stone breathes with you. The doorway hums, a vibration too low to be heard, yet unmistakably felt. The desert wind shifts. Fine grains of sand slide softly across your boots. A whisper of warm air curls around your shoulders. Then, as if sensing your arrival, the doorway gives its first sign. A single falcon carving, just one, seems to brighten with reflected light, though no sunlight touches it. The carved eye glints faintly, a suggestion of awareness, a memory rising from stone. You step back instinctively, not out of fear, out of respect. Desert places like this are not to be rushed. Their silence is their language. You kneel and inspect the sand beneath the doorway. It is darker here, finer, almost powder soft. When you sift it through your fingers, it holds its shape longer than normal sand, clinging, warming your skin before slipping away. Traces of the past, footsteps absorbed and kept, memories pressed into grains. You rise and walk slowly around the doorway. Behind it, the cliff wall is untouched, smooth, unbroken. The doorway leads nowhere. It is not an entrance. It is not a gate. It is a marker, a threshold between what the desert reveals and what it remembers. On the right side pillar, something catches your eye. A faint groove, a shape. You brush sand away. It is a falcon feather, carved with such delicate detail that each line appears like the stroke of an ancient brush. The feather bends slightly at the tip, curving inward toward the doorway. A gesture, an invitation, or a warning. You trace the feather gently. Warmth rises through the stone again, soft, subtle, pulsing like the slow breath of something asleep behind the doorway. You look up at the lintel. The falcons appear different now. Their wings, though still closed, seem to hover slightly farther from the stone. Their bodies glow faintly in the half-shadow. Their eyes, carved shut, hold an uncanny sense of waiting. Waiting for what? You step into the hollow beneath the doorway. The air changes instantly. Cool at first, then warm, then neither. As if the doorway creates its own temperature. its own climate, separate from the desert around it. You close your eyes. Silence descends. Not emptiness, not absence, a heavy, warm silence, like the space between heartbeats. Then, a shift. A breeze curls behind your ear. A soft rush of air moves through the doorway, though there is no passage, no hollow space, no cavern beyond. The air carries a faint scent, distant olives, warm feathers, dust touched by dawn. You open your eyes. The carvings shimmer again, very faintly, barely noticeable. You lift your hand toward the center of the lintel. A hum rises, low, resonant, ancient, the kind of hum that feels less like sound and more like memory, waking up inside stone. Your fingertips hover beneath the carving. The hum deepens. The doorway seems to inhale, and then, from the closed stone eyes of the central falcon, a tiny line of dust falls, just 1 grain wide, a single soft cascade, falling like the first snow of a forgotten winter. The grain lands on your wrist, warm, alive. You lift it to your ear. There is a sound inside it, the faintest whisper, like wings stirring in a nest of stone. Not movement, not language, something older, something waiting. Far behind you, the desert wind grows still. The air thickens. The doorway feels awake now. Not fully, not dangerously, just aware. You lower your hand. Your heartbeat slows. Your breath deepens. Your body relaxes. And then you hear it, a soft, steady rhythm rising through the sand beneath your feet. Not footsteps, not wind, breath, slow, deep breath, coming from inside the rock. You step closer to the doorway. Your shadow joins the shadows of the carved falcons. For a moment it feels like you are standing among them. One more quiet figure carved into the desert's memory. You place your hand on the pillar again. The hum responds instantly, warmer, slower, welcoming. The pillar exhales, so gently, so softly. A warm gust of air slips past your fingers and flows over your wrist, up your arm, across your shoulder. You close your eyes again. In the darkness behind your eyelids, you see feathers, not moving, not flying, resting, nestled in deep alcoves of stone, waiting, sleeping, waiting for something only the desert remembers. You inhale slowly. The pillars inhale with you. You exhale. The falcons exhale. The doorway breathes. The stone warms. And the desert deepens into the kind of silent stillness that only appears when something ancient recognizes you. Not as a visitor, not as a stranger, but as someone who listens. The hum softens, the warmth settles, and the doorway gives you one gentle ancient word, spoken not in sound, but in the way stone leans, sand shifts, and breath aligns. The hum fades into a warmth that lingers around your wrist, long after the doorway quiets again. The desert holds itself in a stillness that feels intentional, as if every grain of sand around you has paused to listen for whatever happens next. You step backward from the stone, not out of fear, but out of instinct, like stepping back from someone who has just awakened from a long sleep. The air around you shivers softly, not with wind, with memory. The falcons above you seem unchanged at first glance, their carved wings still folded, their stone eyes still closed, but the shadows around them feel deeper, shaped in curves more deliberate, more weighted. The lintel carries a presence now, no longer dormant, no longer waiting. You kneel in the sand beneath the doorway. Something compels you, something warm, ancient, patient. The sand here is cooler than before, as if the doorway pulled its warmth inward. You sift the grains through your fingers. Each grain glitters faintly, catching the rising sunlight in tiny flashes. The sand clings to your palms longer than normal, holding warmth you no longer feel on the surface. You rise slowly. The desert wind returns, a faint movement behind your shoulders. It carries the scent of dust warmed in early sun, mingled with the faint suggestion of feathers, sun-baked but clean, like places where birds once roosted before time shifted around them. You step through the doorway, not into a room, not into a cave, just a patch of sand on the other side. But the moment you cross beneath the lintel, the air changes, the warmth returns in a wave, gentle, low, rising from the ground in long exhalations. The sand beneath this arch feels different, finer, compact, yet soft. It holds shapes longer, remembers footprints a bit more clearly, clings longer to your boots before slipping away. A memory ground, a place made to keep traces. You walk forward. The cliffs rise on either side, but here they change their shape. The walls curve inward faintly, guiding you through a long, natural corridor. The light grows dimmer, even though the sun is bright behind you. As you move, shadows shift gently along the rock face, forming shapes that resemble wings folded along limestone. They move only when you move. You pause. The shadows pause. You breathe. The shadows settle. You continue deeper into the corridor. The air cools, then warms again. Subtle, rhythmic, like breath being shared between stone and sand. You begin to feel the corridor itself has lungs, exhaling gently in waves that travel through the walls, down into the sand, and back upward again. Around a gentle bend, the corridor opens into a wider chamber carved by ages of wind. A shallow bowl of desert lies before you, a circular depression surrounded by low ridges. At the center of the bowl lies something that looks like a nest built of stone fragments. You approach. The stones are arranged in a spiral, 12 pieces, each smooth and pale, placed with such intention that even centuries of wind have failed to disturb their positions. Inside the spiral lies dust, not desert dust, a different dust, grayish, soft, almost feathery. You kneel at the edge of the spiral. The dust carries a faint scent, something like warm stone mixed with the dry whisper of feathers settling after long flight. You brush your fingers across it gently. It clings to your skin in soft streaks and warms almost immediately. This is not sand, not ash, not debris. This is what remains of breath once held in wings. You look up. The chamber is silent, still, warm, but something in the air has changed. A shift so subtle you might miss it, if not for the way the dust trembles faintly inside the spiral. You hold your breath. The dust trembles again, spirals inward, rises just a little, as if lifted by a warmth not from the sun. A hum rises beneath you, deeper than before, closer, as if something beneath the sand is awakening. You press your palm gently to the ground. Warmth rushes through your skin, up your arm, into your chest. The bowl begins to breathe, slowly, deeply. The sand rises and falls in long, silent waves, barely perceptible yet unmistakable. You step back, startled but calm. The spiral stones shift, not physically but in presence. Their warmth grows steady, their dust brightens, their quiet deepens. You close your eyes, letting the rhythm of the bowl wash into your thoughts. A memory unfolds, not yours, not human, but stored deep in stone and dust. You feel the presence of falcons, thousands, millions of wing beats, over countless centuries, passing above the desert on their migrations. They followed winds like travelers follow roads. They nested on cliffs. They watched from the heights. Their shadows crossed the dunes like time itself shifting across sand. Somewhere in the past, pilgrims to the oracle gathered the dust of molted feathers, dust warmed by sun, cooled by moon, carried by wind, and placed it here, inside this spiral, to honor the winged watchers of the desert. Dustfall, the falling of feathers, the shedding of old journeys. This was the falcon's doorway, not for bodies, but for presence, for memory. The spiral glows faintly under your fingers. The warmth steadies, the hum deepens. You rise. You look toward the far end of the bowl where a narrow passage leads upward between two low stone ridges. It is barely visible at first, disguised among natural outcrops, but the stones lining its entrance lean subtly inward, carved with faint grooves that resemble feathers. You walk toward it. The closer you get, the more deliberate the path becomes. Sand gathers only at the edges, leaving the center smooth and clear. The walls rise slowly until the passage forms a shallow tunnel of stone, open to the sky only in narrow slivers. The air here changes again. It cools, then warms, then cools once more. Not randomly, in a pattern, a breath. You continue deeper. The walls widen slightly and reveal a second chamber, smaller than the first but more focused. At its center stands a single stone, tall and slender, roughly shaped but unmistakably carved. It leans slightly forward, toward the entrance, toward you. The stone's surface is covered in shallow grooves, not writing, not symbols, but the marks of wings brushing against it. You run your fingers down the grooves. Heat gathers instantly. Warmth spreads into your palm. A vibration hums deep within the stone, slow and steady. You place your other hand beside it. The hum grows stronger. Your breath deepens. Your thoughts quiet. The stone remembers feathers touching it. Hundreds, thousands, over generations. Not one falcon, but countless. Not once, but always. A place where birds brushed the stone on their way across the desert, following winds older than the language carved into temples. You press your forehead gently to the stone. A warmth rises around you, curling like wings. A shadow crosses your closed eyes, not of the present, but of memory. You see falcons circling high above the desert, casting thin stretched shadows over dunes. You see them descend, gliding through heat haze, settling on the ridge above this chamber. You feel the soft brush of air as they leap again, passing close to the stone, trailing feathers of dust. Dustfall, again and again. A soft breeze rises now in the chamber. It stirs the sand. It lifts the faintest trace of dust from the grooves in the stone. You open your eyes. A small swirl of feather dust drifts upward, slow, graceful, deliberate, rising toward the narrow opening in the roof. The air follows it, warm, gentle, steady. You watch the dust drift until it escapes into the light above. You stand back. The chamber breathes one last time, sand shifting softly beneath your feet. Then the warm wind fades. You turn toward the exit. The same warm breath that greeted you at the doorway now follows behind, brushing lightly across your shoulders as though guiding you back toward the threshold. The passage widens. The bowl brightens. The cliffs glow. You return to the doorway of sleeping falcons. The falcons above the lintel look unchanged, eyes carved shut, wings folded, heads bowed. But something in their presence feels different, as if they have stirred slightly in their long rest, as if your steps reminded them of something the desert once sang to them, as if they dream now with deeper warmth. You place your hand on the pillar one last time. The hum rises, soft, steady, warm. Not an awakening, not a warning, a blessing. The doorway exhales. Warm air slips across your fingers, and in the hush of that breath, the falcons give you one final message. Not spoken, not carved, but carried gently in the way the stone leans toward you. Your silence will keep them sleeping. You step back into the sun. The doorway remains still. The falcons rest again. The desert brightens, and all around you the warm wind carries the faintest whisper of feathers falling softly into dust. The rock that carried the horizon. The Hoba plain wakes before the sun, as though the horizon itself rouses the land from sleep with a slow amber breath. In the gray-blue hour before dawn, the world here feels weightless, quiet enough that even the smallest rustle of dry grass seems like a message, and the low hum of earth beneath your feet beats in time with something older than the concept of morning. You walk across a stretch of land so wide it feels like the sky has slipped down to rest on the ground. The edges of the plain blur into a soft haze where the first hints of light gather, pooling low in the east. Birds haven't begun their calls. The air is cool, holding the memory of night in thin threads that twist around your legs. But something else is here too, a presence, a weight, a calm so deep the air seems thicker around it. You follow a barely visible path through the grass, watching as the horizon stretches flatter with each step. The land is gentle, rolling only in subtle waves. The wind lifts grains of dust, just enough to catch the earliest light, making the plain shimmer like water rippling under breath. Then you see it. At first it looks like a darker patch of ground, an outcrop or flat slab of stone. But as you approach, the shape becomes more deliberate, more singular. A massive form rests at the center of a shallow depression in the earth. A rock, alone, silent, impossible to ignore. The Hoba Skystone. It lies where it fell long before any story could catch it, its surface worn smooth by nothing but time. No cracks, no sharp edges, just a vast, gentle flatness that catches the morning light like an unfurled horizon. The stone doesn't look placed, it looks settled, as though the earth folded its arms underneath and lowered it gently into the hollow, keeping it safe, keeping it known. You approach slowly. The light grows, soft and gold, stretching across the stone in long, shimmering bands. Even before you touch it, you feel warmth radiating from its surface. Not heat from the sun, the stone warmed itself under starlight long before dawn arrived. You kneel beside it. The stone is immense, its surface large enough to fit several people lying side by side, its height low but powerful, its edges soft as though the world sculpted them with patience alone. You place your hand on it, warm, steady, and then, a faint vibration, not constant, not rhythmic, just a single pulse, like the stone exhaled under your palm. You keep your hand there, a second pulse, a third, slow, measured, ancient. The wind dies, the birds remain silent. The world enters a pause so complete that it feels as though the horizon has leaned closer to listen. You close your eyes. The warmth climbs your arm, gentle as breath. The ground beneath your knees softens. The stone carries a presence, heavy but not oppressive, deep but not overwhelming. A presence that holds memory, not in story, but in gravity. You open your eyes. The dawn sky has changed. Its colors gather more intensely on the stone's surface, refracting in ways that don't quite follow the sun's movement. The edges of the rock glint in amber and rose, as though reflecting not light but distance, miles and miles of horizon drawn into one stone. You step back to take in the full view. The stone is a horizon, not symbolic, literal. Its length mimics the shape of the land around you. Its surface holds colors the sky has not yet shown. Its edges appear to blend into the world beyond it. It carries the horizon. Everywhere the stone lies, the horizon seems lower, closer, almost resting upon it. When you tilt your head, the sky shifts subtly, not in color, but in depth, as if the stone anchors the horizon itself. You walk slowly around it. On one side, the grass bends in a curve that resembles the arc of a distant ridgeline, though no ridges exist here. On another side, the earth dips faintly, mirroring a valley that does not appear on any map. The stone seems to remember the shape of landscapes that once touched it, landscapes long erased by time and wind. You kneel again. Soft scratches line a portion of the stone, tiny grooves almost invisible in the low light. You brush your fingers over them. They're not writing, not symbols, more like pressure marks from something heavy that pressed against the rock in a distant age. Wind, sand, stars. Dust rises and settles around your hand. You lean your ear to the stone and hear it again. A hum, low, even, endless. The hum does not vibrate the stone, it vibrates the air above it. You sit cross-legged beside it. Time shifts, not forward, not backward, just away. Your breath steadies, your heartbeat softens, thought slows, dissolving like mist rising from early grass. The horizon glows, the stone warms, and for a moment, just a moment, you feel your weight ease, as though gravity loosened its hold, as though the stone has taken it from you. The wind stirs at last. A quiet breeze glides over the stone's surface and across your cheek. Warm at first, cool next, warm again, like breath. You look toward the far end of the depression. The earth there forms a shallow slope marked by several smaller stones, round, smooth, placed in a loose crescent. They lead upward in a gentle arc toward a narrower ridge. You follow them. Each stone is warm. Each stone hums faintly. Each stone feels like a step taken by the horizon itself. When you reach the ridge, the world opens. The plains roll endlessly outward, catching the full light of the rising sun. The sky stretches so wide, it appears to curve downward toward the edges of the world, and then you see something carved faintly into the ridge itself. Shallow lines, curves, a map without markings, a drawing without edges. It resembles the stone, not its shape, but its presence, a memory of its fall, recorded by the earth. You kneel before the carving. Sand gathers in the grooves. Warmth radiates faintly. The hum deepens. You place both hands on the ridge. Heat spreads through your palms, your arms, your chest. And then, a sensation rises through the ground. Not image, not voice, not vision. Distance. Miles of distance. Hundreds. Thousands. All of it carried through the stone. Compressed into the weight beneath your palms. A memory unfolds. The stone did not fall here. It traveled. Across sky. Across wind. Across night. So long it carved itself into the stone's warmth. And when it touched earth, the horizon bent to meet it. You stand slowly. The stone below hums again. Softly. Inviting. Steady. You turn back toward the rock. The sun climbs higher. Light spills over the plain. The stone brightens with it, gleaming softly like a sleeping sun wrapped in land. You walk back down the ridge. When you reach the skystone's edge, you place your hand on it again. Warmth surges gently. The horizon shifts slightly, not bending, but bowing. You close your eyes, and in the hush of dawn, the stone gives you one word, shaped not by voice, but by the weight of distance it has carried for thousands of years. The warmth beneath your palm glides slowly up your arm, settling like a patient pulse behind your ribs. The stone feels more awake now, not with movement, but with awareness, as though your touch stirred something resting in its deep memory. You lift your hand gently. The horizon widens, not in distance, but in presence, stretching outward in a way that feels less like seeing more land and more like understanding its shape. Faraway hills soften into silhouettes, their edges wavering like brushstrokes painted on air. The sky arches above with a slow, ancient calm. You stand beside the stone, letting its warmth seep into the morning. The wind stirs again, not sharply, not suddenly, just enough to carry the scent of dry grass mixed with iron and earth warmed under stars. A faint shimmer rises from the stone's surface, barely noticeable, like heat haze on a still day. The shimmer curves upward, bending gently before dissolving into the brightening air. You take a slow breath. The wind answers. You begin walking along the stone's perimeter, tracing its edges as if reading a story laid flat in the ground. The surface is smooth, the curvature almost perfect despite centuries of weather and touch. Here and there, shallow marks appear, not scratches, but dents, depressions, softened indentations like fingerprints left by time itself. You stop at a place where the indentations deepen. Your fingers settle into them naturally, as though the stone carved them specifically for hands to rest. A soft vibration rises through your fingertips. The warmth grows stronger, not hotter, but more present, steady and grounding. For a moment, the world narrows around your touch. The air falls silent, the wind stills, the horizon holds its breath. You close your eyes and lean your forehead gently against the stone. Darkness behind your eyelids shifts. A feeling, not a vision, unfolds. A weight moving through sky, slow, steady, endless. Not falling, not flying, traveling. The stone remembers its journey, the coldness of deep sky, the warmth of atmospheric touch, the first wind that greeted it as it neared Earth. You feel fragments of that ancient descent, silence, distance, a slow turning, the world coming into view, not as a sphere but as a horizon, flat, delicate, vulnerable. Then, a soft impact, not violent, not explosive, more like a heavy presence resting into the Earth's embrace after a long, cold voyage. A landing, not a crash. Your breath deepens, the memory fades. You open your eyes. The stone beneath your hand grows warm again, lighter now, like sunlight folding into iron. The horizon ahead gleams faintly, as if responding to the stone's remembrance. You walk toward the far side of the depression. The ground rises gently here, forming a natural ramp of earth. Small clusters of pale grasses cling to the slope, their tips shimmering gold in the morning light. As you ascend, you feel the subtle vibration in the soil, faint pulses that echo the stone's hum. When you reach the top, the world opens again. A second hollow lies beyond the ridge, a smaller basin lined with rocks placed in a loose, deliberate circle. Some stones are pale, some dark, all rounded, their surfaces worn smooth. They form a pattern that feels ancient, though time has softened its clarity. At the center rests a smaller slab, iron-rich, dark, flat, like a fallen shadow of the sky stone. You approach it slowly. The air cools momentarily as you step into the basin, then warms again as if the stone beneath the surface recognizes your presence. You kneel beside the slab. Its surface is cool. You place your palm on it. Warmth rises slowly through your hand, like steam rising from deep rock after a long night. The slab hums faintly, in a rhythm different from the sky stone, faster, lighter, almost like a whispering echo. You place your other hand on the stone. The hum steadies. The basin grows quieter. And then something subtle begins, a tremble in the soil, a soft shift in the air, a gentle undulation beneath your palms. You close your eyes and let the sensation settle. Images do not appear, but feelings do. Distance, travel, heat, cold, weight suspended between worlds, and then, a moment of lightness, the feeling of release, of no weight at all. Your breath catches softly. The slab is sharing the memory of the sky, the long passage, the quiet wandering, the eternal drift. Not the fall, not the landing, the drifting. It remembers being unanchored, a fragment of horizon carried through a horizon of stars. You open your eyes. The basin feels different now, wider, deeper, as though a veil has been lifted from the shape of the land. The stones around you warm subtly, exhaling a slow breeze that moves in a circle, curling through the air like a soft rotation of distance. You stand. The warm breeze follows your steps as you move around the basin's edge. The stones vibrate just enough to feel through your shoes, tiny pulses, steady and grounding, like the heartbeat of a creature made of land. You walk toward a narrow opening at the far end of the basin. A gentle path slopes downward, leading toward a line of low rocky outcrops. The path feels guided, worn into the ground, not by feet, but by time itself, pressing a route for travelers who listen. As you follow it, the landscape changes subtly. The grasses grow sparser, the earth darkens, the horizon shifts inward, forming a long horizontal line that seems to tilt slightly toward the sky stone behind you. When you finally reach the outcrops, you see something carved into the stone, not deep, not decorative, just faint marks, curves, arcs, lines that resemble the shape of the horizon across different lands. You touch one of the arcs, it warms beneath your fingers. You lean closer, more curves appear faintly under shifting light, some wide, some narrow, some almost flat, horizon shapes, not drawn by human hands, recorded by presence, pressed by time. You step back and look at the outcrops fully. The pattern resembles the horizon carried by the sky stone, expansive beauty shaped into stone not by intention, but by memory. You sit on a smooth ledge nearby. The wind carries dust across your boots. Warmth settles around your shoulders. The air thickens with quiet. Then, a distant hum rises, not from the sky stone, not from the basin, from the horizon itself, a low, steady vibration that travels through air and earth alike. You stand. The hum grows stronger, still soft but fuller than before, as though the horizon has recognized its own story being remembered. You turn back toward the sky stone. Light gathers around its edges, subtle, gentle, forming a faint halo that merges earth and sky. The hum deepens. You approach the stone once more, your footsteps falling into rhythm with the hum. When you reach it, you place your hand on its surface. The warmth surges gently. The horizon bows. The world breathes. Time rests. You close your eyes. A whisper of distance unfolds. Not far, not close, just endless. A presence touches your thoughts. Horizons are carried by those who listen. The warmth softens. The hum steadies. The stone exhales. You step back. Your heart beats slow. Your breath deep. Your body light. The horizon widens again, resting gently in the sky stone's presence, carried, remembered, unbroken. And long after you walk away, the stone keeps waiting, holding the horizon for anyone who arrives willing to listen. The shrine that held its breath. Dawn reaches Mraku slowly, as though the ancient hills must first decide whether to let the light touch them. Mist gathers in low, drifting banks across the plain, softening every shape into ghost-like silhouettes. Stone pagodas rise from the haze like islands in a pale sea, their domes dark and rounded, their edges softened by centuries of monsoon and silence. The air smells of wet earth, stone warmed by memory, and the faint sweetness of incense burned in distant monasteries. Even before the sun lifts above the ridgeline, the world here feels awake, quietly, patiently, as if holding its breath for something it once knew well. You walk along a narrow path cut between terraces. The soil beneath your boots is damp, giving slightly under your weight. Dew gathers on blades of grass, trembling with the slightest breeze. Birds stir in the trees, but their morning calls feel distant, muffled by the thick curtain of mist. Ahead, the hills rise in soft, folded shapes. Their shoulders are covered in jungle, but here and there, stone emerges. Walls, steps, domes, hinting at the lost city beneath the canopy. Mraku is a place of many ruins, but you are walking toward a shrine that does not appear on maps. A shrine that breathes like something alive. A shrine that, according to local whispers, once held its breath for centuries. The path turns sharply and begins to climb. Tree roots crisscross the slope, their surfaces slicked dark by night rain. You move slowly, finding your way through ferns and narrow stone stairways, half swallowed by moss. The deeper you go, the quieter the forest becomes. Somewhere above, the shrine waits. You feel it, not in the air, but in the stillness. When you reach the ridge, mist curls around your legs, then slips away, revealing a plateau. The land here flattens and widens just enough to hold a small structure, a single stone shrine carved from dark volcanic rock. You stop. The shrine stands alone at the center of the clearing, its silhouette framed by a ring of banyan trees, whose roots twist and weave like ancient guardians. The structure is small, perhaps the height of a person, but perfectly shaped. Its dome smooth, its base carved with faint ridges that spiral inward like the slow coil of breath being drawn. No doorway, no window, only stone. It looks less built than breathed into existence. You approach carefully. Mist slides over the surface of the shrine, wrapping it in pale ribbons. As you draw closer, the air changes, the warmth of morning retreats. A coolness settles around your shoulders, not chilly, not damp, but still, very still. You place your hand on the stone. It is cool, then warms beneath your touch. Not rapidly, gently, like a held breath, exhaled after years of waiting. You withdraw your hand, the warmth remains. You circle the shrine. Carvings appear along the base, barely visible until the light strikes them at the right angle. They are not symbols, not writing, they are shapes, folds, curves. They resemble the ripples of water when something sinks beneath the surface, breath sinking into stone. You lean closer. The carvings deepen toward the back of the shrine, where the ground slopes slightly downward. The shapes here form a spiral, a slow descent inward, tight but delicate, as if carved by hands that moved only when breath permitted. You kneel at the base of the spiral. The stone beneath your fingers vibrates faintly, not enough to move, enough to be felt. A pulse. Your breath aligns with it, slow, deep, controlled. The shrine feels like it is breathing with you. You place your hand flat on the stone. The pulse strengthens. The mist thickens around the shrine, slipping between your fingers like silk. Somewhere in the trees, a leaf falls with a soft click that seems oddly loud in the silence. Then, a sound, faint, low, a whisper of vibration rising from within the shrine. Not a voice, not wind, not movement, breath, held for centuries, released slowly now, in the presence of someone willing to listen. You close your eyes. The vibration travels through your hand, into your wrist, your arm, your chest. Your heartbeat slows, matching the rhythm coming from the shrine. The air thickens, warm in some places, cool in others. A picture begins to form, not in sight, but in sensation. Darkness, a chamber deeper than the visible surface, silence carved into walls, the faint scent of ancient incense binding itself to stone. You open your eyes slowly. The mist has thickened into a low cloud around your legs. The trees seem further away now, the world shrinking until only you and the shrine remain. You stand, step backward, and exhale. The shrine exhales with you. A soft breeze passes between the banyan trees, warm, scented with wet leaves and old earth. The breeze circles the shrine once, then dies. The pulse fades, leaving only the faint hum beneath your feet. You walk behind the shrine, stepping carefully through thick roots and moss. Behind it lies a small slope, a hollow carved naturally between stones. The carvings along the base of the shrine continue here, deeper and more deliberate. You brush away leaves and dirt. Underneath lies a shape, a narrow crack, barely enough for fingers, almost hidden beneath centuries of growth. You touch the edges, cold, not the cold of stone, but the cold of space beyond stone. You pry gently, the crack widens, mist slips inside and vanishes. You kneel, placing your ear near the narrow opening. Inside, darkness breathes. The inhale is slow, the exhale quieter, a cycle so calm it could only belong to something that learned to wait. You push the crack wider. A sliver of interior reveals itself, a narrow passage sloping downward, carved from the same dark volcanic stone as the shrine above. The air emerging from inside is warm, damp, earthy, alive. You take a deep breath. The shrine's pulse responds. Once, twice, as if acknowledging your decision. You lower your body and slide inside. The passage is narrow, but the stone is smooth beneath your hands. The air grows warmer as you descend, hugging your skin with quiet, steady pressure. The ceilings drop low, forcing you to crawl, but the space ahead brightens with a sheen reflecting mist-filtered light. As you move deeper, the hum inside the shrine grows stronger, vibrating through the stone like a heartbeat, amplified by time. The air becomes denser, enriched with the scent of old incense and clay. You reach the bottom of the passage. The space opens into a low chamber. You sit up slowly. The walls curve inward like the inside of a rib cage, carved with ripples resembling breath etched into stone. A layer of fine dust covers the floor, undisturbed for generations. The chamber is warm, almost pulsing with quiet life. In the center lies a shallow stone bowl, You crawl toward it. Inside the bowl sits a thin layer of fine powder, gray, soft, shimmering faintly when touched by the narrow beam of light entering from above. You touch the powder, warm, alive. It clings to your fingers like memory. The hum deepens. The powder rises slightly, as though stirred by the faintest breath. You close your eyes. A long-forgotten moment unfolds. A monk kneeling here, head bowed, breath steady, a vow of silence held for so many years that his breath seemed to merge with the darkness. He exhales into the bowl, once, twice, then never again. The powder is incense dust and breath held for centuries, breath waiting to be remembered. You stand slowly. The chamber's warmth surrounds you. The hum grows slow and deep. The bowl glows faintly. The shrine above seems to inhale. You feel the pull of air behind you, a slow beckoning, a warm tide. You turn back toward the passage. The shrine is calling, and as you lift yourself from the chamber floor, a soft voice shaped only by air and silence seems to rise through the stone. The passage narrows again as you climb upward, your palms sliding across stone so smooth it feels polished by centuries of breath alone. Warm air rises behind you in soft waves, like exhalations from a deep place where silence gathers itself and waits. Every shift of your body echoes faintly through the narrow tunnel, soft, subdued, swallowed immediately by the stone. When you emerge into daylight, the mist outside is thicker than before. It has crept deeper into the clearing, swirling low around the shrine's base. The banyan trees loom as pale shadows behind the vapor, their long roots twisting across the earth like sleeping serpents. The shrine sits quiet at the center, holding stillness, the way lungs hold breath before release. You step closer. The pulse inside the shrine has changed, no longer faint, no longer waiting. You feel it even before your hand touches the stone, a steady thrum, deep and gentle, like the heartbeat of a creature too patient for time. The warmth radiating from the surface rises in a slow bloom, spreading across your fingertips, your wrist, your arm. You lean your ear to the stone, breath, not wind, not movement, breath, slow, measured, ancient. You back away again, your chest rising instinctively in the same rhythm. Your breathing aligns with the pulse of the shrine as easily as a tide aligns with the moon. The air thickens, the mist curls, then, a faint shift, not a sound, more like the suggestion of weight moving within the stone. You circle the shrine again, passing through moss and tree roots. At the back, the narrow crack you widen breathes warm air outward, like the corridor is exhaling the dust of centuries. Tendrils of mist slip inside, disappearing into darkness. The inhalation that follows draws them down again. Quiet, subtle, purposeful. The shrine is no longer holding its breath. It is breathing. You follow the carvings that encircle the base, tracing the spiral with your fingertips. The grooves deepen as you move, their ridges warm beneath your hand. The spirals tighten toward the back again, guiding you like a flow of air toward the hidden hollow. You lower yourself once more, sliding inside. The stone brushes your shoulders. Warmth rises around your face. The tunnel feels smaller now, not physically, but in presence, like something is filling it with quiet attention. You move downward again. When you reach the chamber, you immediately feel the difference. The hum has grown slower, deeper, heavier. The air clings to your skin more noticeably, wrapping you in a warmth that feels alive. The bowl at the center glows softly, not with light, but with presence, as though breath has awakened long-forgotten embers beneath the dust. You kneel beside it. The powder has gathered into a faint mound, barely rising, barely shifting, but undeniably moving, as if stirred by breath that does not need lungs or wind. You inhale slowly. The powder rises. You exhale. It falls, not dramatically, almost imperceptibly, but it responds. The chamber holds the memory of vows once spoken here, vows of silence, vows of breath, vows of devotion so deep the air in this place learned to wait. You place both hands on the bowl. Warmth rises immediately, not heat, a soft, breathing warmth, like palms held over gently banked coals. The hum in the chamber changes, thickening around you like fog folding across a valley. The carvings along the walls seem to shift in the dim light, their curves and ripples deepening as if filled with moving air. You close your eyes. A memory comes. A monk kneels before the bowl, older than the one you sensed before, his posture steady, his breath deep. He is alone. The shrine is new. The world outside is noisy, with birds and distant bells. But here, only breath. A long inhale, a slow exhale. The walls vibrate with each cycle, slowly engraving their shapes with the patterns of his breath. The chamber grows warm. The powder in the bowl stirs with every movement of air, rising and falling like a tide. The shrine above becomes a silent vessel for breath too deep to scatter. And then, the monk ceases to breathe. Not abruptly, not violently. He simply lets breath fall still, as though offering his final exhale to the stone. The chamber holds it. The powder keeps it. The shrine absorbs it, and silence becomes a living thing. The memory fades. You open your eyes. The powder settles. The hum steadies. The chamber waits. You rise and place your palm on the carved wall. A ripple of warmth spreads outward from your touch. The grooves glow faintly. holding your handprint in warmth for several seconds before fading back into darkness. You know now, the shrine does not trap breath, it remembers it. Every exhale offered here becomes part of its slow, sacred pulse. You turn toward the passage. As you climb toward light again, the hum follows you. The air cools, the mist brightens, the opening above widens like the mouth of a waking creature, inhaling its first breath of day. You emerge into the clearing once more. The shrine stands still at the center, but its stillness feels purposeful now. The mist swirls around its base, but never touches the upper half, as though the stone itself shapes the fog's movement. You approach the front again. The faltering light of early morning has deepened into steady gold. Birds finally begin their calls in the trees, although their voices sound distant, muted, like respectful whispers around a sleeping presence. You touch the stone. This time the warmth meets you immediately, like a slow breath placed gently into your palm. You feel a pulse, then two, then stillness. Not absence, not silence, completion. The shrine has released its breath. The air around you grows lighter, clearer. The mist lifts slightly. The banyan roots seem less heavy. The clearing feels wider. You sit in the grass before the shrine, letting the warmth seep through your skin. The breeze returning through the trees carries hints of incense, moss, and the faintest suggestion of old vows lingering in the air. Your breath falls into a steady rhythm. The shrine does not imitate it this time. It simply holds space for it, a quiet guardian of breath, memory, and silence. You close your eyes. A soft whisper passes your ear. No voice, no sound, just the movement of air shaped by presence. When you open your eyes again, the shrine seems to lean forward, not physically, in feeling, as though acknowledging you, accepting you, releasing you. You rest your hand one final time on the warm stone. The shrine answers with a faint pulse, one last gesture of breath, before it returns to stillness. Then, in the hush of the clearing carried on warmth and silence alike, the shrine gives you its final truth. You have breathed with us, now carry the quiet back. You rise. The path down the ridge unfolds before you, damp, green, alive with morning. Behind you, the mist closes around the shrine, softly, gently, as it begins to hold its breath again, until someone else arrives willing to listen. The stone that faced the endless dawn. The Altai Mountains breathe in colors no sky elsewhere seems allowed to keep. Dawn here arrives not with brightness but with layers, bands of deep violet, copper, rose, and gold, sliding silently over snow-rimmed peaks and rolling down into the vast valleys like a slow tide of light. The edges of the world feel closer in these moments, as if the sky leans down to greet the sleeping earth before anyone else wakes. You stand on a narrow ridge where grass bows low to the wind, their blades tipped with frost that softens the land into a pale shimmer. The air is sharp and clean, the kind that fills the lungs with a clarity that reaches straight into thought. The horizon stretches so far that mountains bleed into the curve of the world without ever losing their shape. Somewhere ahead, waiting in this untouched quiet, is the monolith elders of the region called the stone that faced the endless dawn. But for now, the land keeps its secret gently. You begin walking. The earth crunches softly beneath your boots, even though the frost is thin. Marmots start to stir in the rocky slopes below, their movements muted by the weight of early morning. In the distance, eagles circle in slow spirals, gliding without a single flap of their wings. The only sound is the wind, patient and unhurried. The path is no real path at all, just a natural line where the ridge flattens enough to walk. Moss clings to stones where the sun last touched them yesterday. Ice crystals catch the early light, scattering it in brief starbursts that vanish as quickly as they appear. The monolith emerges gradually, long before you recognize its true form. At first it appears as just another jagged outcrop, a dark silhouette against the rising glow. But as you draw closer, its shape becomes clearer. Tall, narrow, and impossibly smooth for something perched alone in this wild landscape. It stands on the highest point of the ridge, a single column of stone, a solitary witness to every dawn the Altai has ever known. You slow your pace. The wind softens. The valley holds its breath. The sun hesitates just below the ridge. The monolith becomes clearer. Its surface is pale granite streaked with thin ribbons of darker mineral. Frost sparkles along its eastern face, and although it is carved by time and weather, it looks unnaturally straight, almost as if someone placed it here long ago, angled deliberately toward the horizon. The elders say the stone has always faced the sunrise, not metaphorically, literally. It is angled in a way no natural rockfall should be, as if the mountain raised it like a head turning toward the first light. You stop a few feet away. The air changes, not temperature, not movement, weight. A presence settles around you, quiet, enormous, and ancient. The stone rises nearly twice your height, its face flat and polished in a way nothing else in the surrounding cliffs resembles. It catches the dawn like a mirror made of rock, pulling the light toward it even before the sun appears. You place your palm gently on the surface, cold, then warm, then still. The warmth is faint but unmistakable, a slow breath rising from the stone, or perhaps the stone remembering warmth. A hum wiggles through your hand, not sound, a vibration light enough to almost miss. You inhale, the stone hums again, small, subtle, as if responding to your breath alone, and then the sun breaks. A sharp beam of gold spills over the horizon, racing across the valley floor, climbing the slopes, washing the ridges, until it strikes the monolith full force. The stone ignites, not with flame, but with light. It glows in a way sunlight shouldn't make a stone glow, bright on the inside, soft on the outside, as if waking from a long dream. The grooves in the stone's surface fill with color, the mineral veins pulsing like threads guiding light through old pathways. You step back, breath caught in your chest. The entire eastern face brightens, glowing warm and golden, until the light settles into a steady radiance. You have seen sunrise reflected in snow, in ice, in river stones, never like this. This stone is not reflecting, it is remembering. You sit on a smooth patch of grass, letting the warmth soak into your skin. The silence around you grows thick, comforting, like a blanket drawn over the land. You close your eyes. A picture forms, not visual but felt. A figure climbing this ridge long ago, wrapping a fur cloak tighter against the cold, carrying something small in their hands. They approach the stone, they kneel. Their breath forms clouds that drift upward and circle the monolith before dissolving. They place their hands upon the rock. They whisper something, not a word, just a breath shaped into meaning. And the stone answers with a soft pulse of warmth, the same warmth you felt moments ago. The vision fades. You open your eyes. The monolith stands silent again, yet undeniably awake. You stand and walk around it. The western side is darker, its surface rougher, shaped by storms blowing across the valley. Moss grows here in thin patches. The stone seems to lean slightly east, not enough to be unnatural, but enough to signal intention. You notice a shallow groove carved into the northern edge, long, straight, precise. You run your finger along it. The groove is warm, not warm from sun, warm from inside. You follow it down toward the base, then around to the eastern side. There, carved deeply into the stone, lies a single hollow shaped like a shallow bowl. Its center is polished smooth by something, not hands, not tools, something softer, slower, older. You kneel. Inside the bowl lies a thin layer of frost. As the sun warms it, the frost melts into droplets, each droplet glowing with the reflected sunrise. You touch one with your fingertip. It warms instantly, then seeps into the stone, absorbed. The bowl is not for offerings, it is for light. You feel it now. The stone is not worshipped. It worships the dawn. Every morning, it breathes in light. Every morning, it remembers warmth. Every morning, it awakens again. You rise slowly. A faint warmth spreads through the air, just enough to brush your face. The breeze changes direction, flowing gently toward the monolith, as though pulled by its presence. You take a step closer. The stone hums again. You place your hand on its face, and the hum deepens. It resonates up your arm, through your chest, settling behind your sternum like a second heartbeat aligning with your own. You exhale slowly. The hum responds. Your breath and the stone's breath intertwine. The sky brightens. The world expands. Time thins. A sudden memory from the land itself washes through you. The first dawn after a long winter. Snow melting, rivers cracking open, winds shifting from north to east, birds returning, grass awakening, and in the middle of it all, this stone, leaning toward the light, gathering it, keeping it. You open your eyes. The stone is still glowing, not brightly, not unnaturally, but in a soft, steady radiance that feels like the echo of the sun within it. You step back. The wind rises gently, tugging at your coat, pulling your gaze toward a narrow path descending from the ridge. It seems to lead toward a lower plateau where several smaller stones stand in scattered positions, like pieces of a broken circle. You follow. The slope is gentle, dotted with hardy shrubs and low grass. Frost clings to the ground in patches, sparkling as you pass. Birds begin to stir fully now, their calls echoing softly across the valley. As you near the plateau, the stones become clearer. Some stand upright, some lie flat, some lean in pairs as if resting against one another. They are much smaller than the monolith, yet each one faces east. You kneel beside the nearest stone. A small groove runs along its top surface. Another bowl-shaped hollow lies carved into its side. You touch it, warm, like the monolith, but quieter. These stones do not gather dawn, they share it. You stand, turning back toward the ridge. The monolith glows faintly still, watching the horizon like a sentinel of light. You feel something in the wind, a shift, gentle, beckoning. Something deeper lies beyond this plateau, a path of light, a memory of dawn, a breath carried by stone. You take a step toward the far edge of the plateau, and the monolith, glowing quietly in the rising sun, gives you one soft word, not in sound, but in warmth along your spine. The wind at the plateau edge rises not as a gust, but as a slow, deliberate pull, like a long breath exhaled somewhere among the distant peaks. You follow it, stepping across frost-dusted grass toward a narrow descent carved naturally into the mountainside. The sky is brighter now, the gold of dawn shifting toward a soft morning amber, yet the light still clings to the monolith behind you as though reluctant to leave it. The path grows steeper, grass gives way to patches of loose stone, lichen spreads in pale green scales across boulders that appear almost melted by centuries of snow and sun. Every few steps you catch a glimpse of the monolith high above, its pale granite shimmering like a drawn blade of morning. Lower now, the valley spreads before you. A wide expanse of rolling tundra stretches between the ridges, dotted with dark stones and glints of frozen streams. Herds of wild horses move like shadows across the far plain, their silhouettes rising and falling as they graze. The world feels endless in every direction, yet carried quietly inside the hush of mountains. You reach the valley floor. The air here is warmer, softer. The grass brushes your legs like the movement of a tide. Somewhere close by, water murmurs beneath sheets of thin ice, hinting at a buried stream. Ahead, scattered stones form a pattern, not obvious, not symmetrical, but purposeful. You walk toward them. Some are tall enough to reach your hip, others lie half buried, their shapes softened by grass and time. Yet all of them face the same direction, east, dawnward. You kneel beside the nearest one. Its surface is cool now, though not cold. When you trace a finger across its face, you feel a small indentation, shallow, smooth, perfectly round. It resembles the bowl hollow carved into the monolith, though smaller, as if meant to hold only a single droplet of light. You lean closer. Inside the hollow sits a faint smear of frost. As sunlight touches it, the frost melts slowly into a bead of water, tiny, glowing, then sinks into the stone's surface and disappears. The stone breathes in dawn, the way grass drinks dew. You stand and walk deeper into the stone field. The more stones you pass, the clearer the pattern becomes. Not a circle, not a line, not a map, a gradient. As if the stones captured different fragments of each sunrise, holding them at slightly different angles, storing soft pieces of light in their small hollows. You look up at the ridge. The monolith is still glowing, subtle now, but steady. Everything here is connected to it. Everything learns from it. Everything listens to how it greets the sun each morning. A faint vibration touches your feet. You pause. It is subtle, like a distant drumbeat carried through the ground. It comes again, spreading through the valley in long waves, so gentle the grass barely moves. Yet you feel it clearly, rising into your body, aligning with your breath. You kneel and press your palm to the ground. Another pulse, warm, deep, ancient. It does not come from the earth alone. It comes from the stones. Not one, not many, all of them. Their pulses ripple through the valley in a pattern, east to west, west to east, a slow trading of breath across the land. You stand and follow the pulse. It guides you toward a narrow ravine at the valley's far end. The entrance is marked by two leaning stones, each carved with small grooves that catch the light in stripes. The grooves resemble sunrise at different heights, shifting as the year progresses. You step between them. The ravine tightens, the air cools, the sound of your footsteps grows muffled. Pebbles crack softly underfoot. The pulse grows stronger. Ahead, the ravine widens again, forming a hidden basin surrounded by walls of dark stone. At its center lies something unexpected, a flat slab, perfectly level, covered in faint, shimmering mineral veins that seem to flow like rivers frozen mid-motion. You approach slowly. As you step into the basin, warmth gathers around your ankles, not heat, just the soft pressure of air thickened by presence. You kneel before the slab. The surface glows faintly, even though the sun is not directly touching it. When you lay your hand upon it, the slab welcomes the contact in a soft bloom of warmth. A hum rises beneath your palm, deeper now, closer, steady. You close your eyes. A memory forms. Not a vision, not a picture, but a sensation. Dawn breaking over these mountains for the first time in a season. Snow melting on peaks. The ground thawing. Herds stirring. Birds returning. The world waking. And at the center of all of it, the stone slab receiving the first breath of that light, as if greeting an old friend. You open your eyes. The slab pulses again. Not once, but in a slow rhythm, matching the monolith far above. You realize suddenly, this basin is where dawn gathers before it moves outward across the valley. A cradle for light, a keeper of seasons, a memory of horizons shifting. You stand and walk to the basin's far edge. Beyond it lies another path, barely visible, almost erased by time. Yet the stones lining it hold small hollows, each filled with the faintest glimmer of morning light. You follow the route up the opposite ridge. The climb is longer, steeper, and the air thins as you ascend. The mountains around you glow pale gold, their peaks catching the rising sun in bright arcs. When you reach the crest, you stop. The monolith stands across the valley again, a tall, pale witness to the world opening. Its surface is calmer now, its glow softened, its hum almost imperceptible. But something else catches your eye. A shadow at its base. Long, thin, unbroken. A shadow pointing directly toward you. You follow it with your gaze, one straight line of darkness reaching from the monolith to where you stand. Not random, not coincidental. A path made of shadow, a path made of dawn. You kneel and touch the ground beneath the shadow's end. Warm, the warmth travels backward, up the invisible line, all the way to the monolith's base. You realize what the stone is doing. It is directing you back to itself. You descend again. When you cross the valley floor, the stones hum faintly, not loudly, not urgently, just enough to guide you. The slope back to the ridge is steep, but the wind pushes gently at your back like a hand helping you climb. When you reach the monolith again, the world has quieted. The birds have softened their calls. The wind has lowered its voice. The sky has balanced into soft morning blue. You step close. The stone is warm now. Not radiating heat, but holding it like a slow ember buried inside granite. You place your hand upon it. The hum returns. Deep, quiet, slow. It flows up your arm, settles in your chest, matches your heartbeat. You close your eyes. All the dawns held by this stone flower gently through your thoughts. Winter's melting, spring's awakening, summer's stretching, autumn's cooling, light shifting, returning, changing, enduring. You feel the weight of horizons carried by this stone, caught in mineral veins, resting in hollows, sleeping in silence. The hum softens, your breath steadies, and the stone gives you its final truth, spoken not in sound, but in warmth that settles deep behind your ribs. Every dawn you face becomes yours to carry. You step back. The monolith quiets, the wind exhales, the horizon brightens, and down in the valley, the stones shimmer faintly, holding dawn for the next traveler who walks gently into their silence. The stone that waited for thunder. The Himalayas do not wake quickly. They rise into dawn the way old spirits rise into memory, slowly, silently, as if the weight of their own age presses gently against the coming light. The air at this altitude is thin, almost crystalline, and every breath feels borrowed from a world that has never known haste. You stand where the ridge begins to narrow, boots crunching on snow that has never fully melted, even in the gentlest summers. Between the ridgelines, clouds drift like silent rivers of white, brushing against slopes carved by storms strong enough to shape centuries. Far below, valleys lie in muted blue shadow. Prayer flags flutter from old wooden poles half buried in snowdrifts, their colors pale from wind and winter. Somewhere in the distance, an eagle circles in a slow loop, its wings catching the faintest glimmer of dawn. You are walking toward a place no trail officially leads, a place the shepherds of distant villages mention only in passing, a place they call the stone that waited for thunder. The air grows colder, wind shifts around you, soft at first, then firmer, almost guiding your steps like a quiet presence. Snow swirls along the ground in thin spirals, rising and falling as though following some ancient rhythm. You climb. The ridge grows steeper, and the sound of your breath becomes louder in your ears. Each step leaves a crisp imprint in the snow. The world feels enormous and intimate at the same time. The sky too close, the mountains too wide, the silence too deep to belong to anything but stone. And then you see it. At first it's only a dark shape against the pale glow of dawn, tall, solitary, unmoving. But as you draw closer, its form becomes clearer, a monolith. Twice your height, carved by nothing but wind, snow, and something else, patience. Its surface is dark granite, veined with streaks of pale quartz. Faint lines run down one side, vertical grooves that look almost like scars left by lightning. The tip narrows to a rounded point, and frost coats its eastern face in a delicate sheen. It stands with its back to the mountain, leaning ever so slightly forward, angled toward the sky as if listening for thunder. You slow your pace. The wind stops. The entire ridge grows still, as though the mountains themselves have paused to acknowledge your arrival. You take a step closer, and another. The stone looms before you, larger now, more deliberate. Despite its rough texture, it feels shaped, chosen by the mountain and placed exactly where it stands. You reach out a hand. Your fingers hover just above the surface. Cold radiates outward, but underneath the cold is something else, a faint warmth, deep and buried, like the slow ember of a hearth, long extinguished but not forgotten. You lay your palm against the stone. The warmth rises, slow, steady, calm. A vibration hums beneath your hand, not constant, not strong, just enough to feel like a heartbeat, long separated from the world around it. You inhale, the hum answers. You exhale, it deepens for only a moment, then returns to silence. The stone is not awake, not sleeping, but waiting. You step back, breath steady. The mist around you has thickened, curling gently around the monolith's base. Through the fog, the stone's shape becomes strangely elongated, as though stretching upward toward a sky that has not yet offered what it seeks. Thunder. You feel it suddenly, without sound or movement, a presence in the air, a tension in the cold, the faint whisper of storms older than memory. You walk slowly around the stone. On its western face, the quartz veins flicker faintly in the dawn light. At certain angles, they resemble branching cracks, lightning frozen inside rock. But when you touch them, the lines feel warm beneath your fingers, warmer than the surrounding stone. You follow one of the veins downward. It curves like a river, twisting until it meets a shallow hollow carved near the stone's base. The shape is almost circular, smooth as if worn by something softer than ice. Inside the hollow lies a single droplet of melted frost, tiny, clear. glowing faintly with reflected dawn. As you watch, the droplet trembles, a tiny, delicate shiver. Then it sinks into the stone, absorbed. You exhale softly. The monolith drinks not only thunder but water, light, sound, and silence. You rise and continue around the base. Snow gathers in ridges around the monolith, forming natural spirals that resemble the uncoiling of storm clouds. The wind picks up again, gently at first, then with a soft push that nudges the snow into a slow drift. The monolith hums, not loudly, not clearly, but definitely. You lean your ear close. The sound is deep, low, impossible to mistake for wind. It is not echo, not mountain, not anything you've heard before. It is a waiting, a long, patient waiting for thunder that has not yet come. You step back, breath clouding the air. Then the wind shifts again, this time with direction. It pushes lightly against your shoulder, urging you toward a narrow ledge behind the monolith. The ridge dips there, forming a natural path hidden from view when you first arrived. You follow it. The ledge widens after a few steps, opening into a small platform of flat stone. Snow here has melted in a strange pattern, oval, smooth, ringed with thin channels carved naturally by water. You kneel. Inside one of the channels, frost gathers more thickly, but even from a distance you can see tiny droplets forming beneath it, not cold, but warm, almost steaming in the frigid air. You touch one with the tip of your glove, warm. The warmth vibrates outward in small waves, echoes like tiny versions of the hum within the monolith. You stand, scanning the platform. A faint groove cuts across the stone floor, a thin line running from the platform's edge straight toward the monolith. Snow avoids this groove as if guided away by something unseen. You crouch and trace it with your fingers, warm. Not enough to melt snow entirely, just enough to shape it. You rise again, eyes following the groove to where it meets the monolith's base. The pattern is clear now. The monolith waits for thunder, but thunder also passes through it. A journey of sound turned into vibration, vibration turned into warmth, warmth turned into memory. You walk back up to the monolith. The wind quiets once more. Mist curls at your feet, like low clouds drifting through valleys. You place your hand against the stone again. The hum grows stronger this time, as if welcoming your return. It travels through your arm, settling in your chest, in a rhythm that aligns naturally with your slow, steady breaths. You close your eyes. A memory rises. Not a vision, not a story, but a sensation. Thunder rolling across distant peaks, vibrating through snow and ice, carving faint grooves into the monolith's face, teaching it the language of storms. You open your eyes. The monolith stands silent again, but no longer dormant. It feels like a being made of stone, patient, watchful, ancient, yet attentive in a way that suggests the mountain listens through it. You take a slow breath. The stone answers with a faint whisper of vibration, gentle, steady, like a hand resting calmly on your back. The air around you shifts. The wind picks up, slowly twisting. Snowflakes lift from the ground in thin spirals. Something deeper in the mountain stirs. A pulse of distant thunder, so faint it could be mistaken for memory, rumbles through the ridge. The monolith brightens, just slightly. The quartz veins glow for an instant. Soft, warm, like the first spark of a long-awaited storm. The hum deepens, and with a warmth that reaches you across the wind, the stone gives you one soft word, silent yet unmistakable. The echo of that distant thunder lingers in the cold air, long after the rumble has faded. It feels less like sound, and more like a memory returning to the mountains, one carried deep beneath snow, stone, and centuries. The wind calms, the mist retreats, and for a moment the entire sky seems to lean forward, as if listening alongside you. You look at the monolith. Its quartz veins shine faintly, the glow now pulsing in slow intervals. Never bright, always quiet, like a heartbeat that learned its rhythm from storms. Snow gathers around your boots, but you hardly feel the cold. The stone's hum has settled into your body, warm and steady. You take a step back. The wind shifts behind you. A path reveals itself. It isn't carved, isn't marked, simply present, a natural corridor in the snow that leads around the ridge, following the direction of that faint thunder. You descend carefully. The snow is deeper here, settling in gentle waves that roll down toward a narrow valley. The mountain walls stretch high above you, creating a corridor of shadowed rock. The wind moves differently in this place, less wild, more controlled, as though it passes through old boundaries the mountain remembers. The path opens into a long, sloping shelf of stone. Patches of grass peek through the frost. Icicles hang in delicate rows from rocky ledges. A thin stream murmurs beneath a skin of ice, humming with a rhythm that mimics the monolith's pulse. You kneel beside the stream. The water beneath the ice glows faintly, not with light, but with motion, as if something deeper than water moves through it. You touch the surface of the ice with the edge of your glove. Warm, barely noticeable, but undeniably warm. The warmth does not come from the stream itself. It comes from vibration, a constant, steady pulse that moves beneath the mountain. The same pulse you felt in the monolith. You rise and follow the stream upward. The sound guides you, growing clearer, deeper. It becomes less like water, and more like an echo, the kind that travels through stone and remembers the storms that carved this world. As you climb, the valley widens again. At its center, half buried in snow and shadow, stands another stone. Not as tall as the monolith, not as smooth, but unmistakably connected. It is angled slightly north, its surface cracked and pitted by storms. Small hollows dot its face, each lined with frost crystals that glitter in the morning light. The wind swirls around it gently, carrying with it the faintest whisper of thunder. You approach slowly. As you place your hand on the stone, the warmth rises, weaker than the monolith's, but present. The stone hums, a quieter hum, tired but patient, like a memory that has waited too long for someone to return. You step back, letting the stone rest. It has nothing more to show you, only to remind you that the monolith does not wait alone. The valley continues upward in a gradual climb. Snow thins, wind quiets, sky widens. You step onto a narrow staircase of natural rock. It leads to a small plateau perched at the very edge of a steep cliff. The world drops away beneath it in a sweeping view of endless slopes and ridges. Clouds drift far below, moving like slow rivers across hidden valleys. At the center of the plateau lies a hollow, shallow, perfectly circular, smooth as if carved by the touch of wind and water over thousands of years. You crouch beside it. Inside the hollow sits a thin layer of crushed ice, sparkling in the sunlight. As you watch, the crystals tremble just slightly, not from wind, not from movement, from vibration. The hollow is a bowl for thunder, for catching echoes, for holding storms that rolled across these mountains long before you arrived. You place your hand in the hollow, cold at first, then a warmth rises beneath your palm, slow, steady, ancient. You close your eyes. A memory drifts through you, not personal, not human, but mountain-born. Clouds gathering above silent ridges, lightning splitting the sky, thunder rolling through valleys, each rumble carving small stories into stone. The monolith standing tall, facing the storm, the plateau catching the echoes in its hollow, the stones below holding the softened remnants, the mountain remembering all of it. You open your eyes, the echo fades, but the warmth remains. You rise. The wind has shifted, pulling your gaze upward. A narrow crack in the cliff face forms a natural doorway, a vertical seam in the stone large enough to enter. A faint hum rises from within, deeper and older than anything you've felt so far. You step through. The passage is short, the light dim. The stone walls are rough, carved by nature's hand. Moisture beads along the surface, reflecting small points of light into the narrow chamber ahead. You emerge into a cave, not deep, not dark, but unmistakably sacred. The ceiling is low, the floor smooth. At the back of the chamber stands a slab of black stone, taller than any person. Its surface is polished and reflective, but only faintly, like a memory of water held inside rock. You walk toward it. A soft breeze moves through the cave, though no opening allows wind inside. The slab absorbs the air and releases it again as warmth. You lay your hand upon it. The warmth spreads quickly. The hum grows deeper. The stone awakens. The entire cave vibrates softly, the walls responding as though they too are remembering a time when thunder shook these mountains. You lean closer. Your reflection shifts in the slab's surface. Not distorted, not altered, but layered, as if behind your image stands another form, less clear, older, shaped from stone and storm. The reflection breathes, slow, steady, thunder deep. You close your eyes. A presence brushes your thoughts, gentle yet enormous, like a storm cloud pressed into stillness. It speaks not in words, but in warmth. Thunder does not come to be heard, it comes to be remembered. The warmth pulses, the cave exhales. You open your eyes. The presence withdraws, the reflection steadies, the slab returns to silence. You turn and leave the chamber. Outside, the wind has grown stronger. Clouds gather along the ridge. Snow lifts into spirals, dancing like pale smoke. You climb back to the monolith. As you approach, the stone brightens again, quartz veins glowing gently. Its hum rises, greeting you, honoring your return. Thunder rumbles in the distance, real this time, carried by clouds drifting over the far horizon. The monolith vibrates beneath your touch, warm, alive, listening. You place your hand on its face one final time. The thunder rolls again, the stone hums, the mountains breathe. And in a warmth that settles deep in your chest, the monolith gives you its last truth. Storms return, so do those who listen. The wind softens, the light steadies, the mountains stand quiet, and the stone waits, patient as ever, for thunder's next memory. The face carved by nightfall. Nightfall comes early in the highlands, long before the world fully surrenders to darkness. The air grows cool first, drifting across the basalt ridges in thin threads that carry the scent of distant acacia trees and the faint spice of dry earth. Shadows stretch slowly across the rocky ground, not in straight lines, but in long silent waves, as if the land itself exhales into dusk. You walk along a narrow path that twists between dark stone outcrops sculpted by centuries of wind. The sky overhead deepens from gold to amber to violet. Stars appear one by one, quiet and patient, like watchers waking from sleep. Somewhere ahead, hidden in this rugged quiet, stands the monolith, the Elder's Call, the face carved by nightfall. But for now, the world keeps it tucked beneath the last veil of twilight. You climb, the land rises sharply, forming terraces of volcanic rock. Dust lifts around your boots with each step. Loose pebbles scatter down the slope, clicking softly in the growing silence. A lone bird glides across the sky, wings outstretched, before drifting beyond the ridge and dissolving into shadow. Wind whistles briefly through a natural arch of stone, its hollow tone echoing against the cliffs. The echo lingers longer than it should, as if the landscape is reluctant to release the sound. You reach the top of the ridge, and there, across the plateau, you see it. Not illuminated, not obvious, just a darker shape against the deepening blue of night. It stands alone, tall and narrow, rising from the earth like a shard of black glass placed carefully upright. Even from a distance you can feel the weight of its presence. The Obsidian Watcher. Your pace slows. The plateau is wide, speckled with scattered boulders and tufts of long grass that sway in the cooling breeze. But the monolith stands untouched, perfectly smooth, impossibly dark, absorbing the last colors of twilight instead of reflecting them. As you approach, its features sharpen. The stone is obsidian, yes, glassy, black, sharp in some places where natural fractures catch the fading light. But its shape is not random. This is not a meteorite, not a fallen shard, not a broken piece of cliff. Its entire surface is carved, gently, with patience, with intention. You stop a few feet away. The monolith towers above you, nearly twice your height. The front face, if it can be called a face, is smooth except for a single shallow line that begins near the top and curves downward, ending in a small hollow. You lean closer. In the glow of the first stars, the hollow looks like an eye. Not an eye carved onto stone, an eye carved into it, as if the monolith watches the world, not through shape, but through depth. You touch the stone, cold, but beneath the cold a softness, not physical softness. Obsidian remains glass hard, but a softness in presence, like warmth, that hasn't yet reached the surface. You keep your hand there. The stone vibrates, barely, like a breath hidden in black glass. You step back slowly. The stars reflect faintly on the monolith. Not clear reflections but flickering impressions, light swallowed and returned in small shimmering glints. Then the sky darkens fully, and the monolith changes, not in movement, not in position, but in presence. It feels darker, heavier, more focused, as if nightfall itself has carved a new face upon it. You take another step closer. The shallow line you saw before deepens subtly. The hollow expands a fraction more. A second curved line emerges beneath it, smooth, faded, like the suggestion of a cheek. The monolith is shaping itself from darkness. Breath catches in your chest. Not fear, recognition. This stone was not carved by hands, it was carved by night. Every evening, as the sun lowers and shadows lengthen, the face emerges. Not fully, never fully, but enough to show that the stone remembers something deeper than daylight. You circle around to its side. The obsidian here is fractured, revealing glints of starlight trapped inside. Patterns form naturally across the surface, swirls, cracks, shapes that resemble waves frozen in black glass. But on the far side, you find something unexpected, multiple hollows. Not deep, not symmetrical, just small depressions like fingertips pressed into molten stone long before it cooled. You trace one with your thumb, warm, not from the sun, not from the air, from within. The warmth pulses faintly, an inhale, an exhale, slow, deep, measured. You pause and place your ear against the stone, a hum, low, barely audible, a vibration that feels older than memory, younger than silence. Then, something shifts in the distance. Wind rises suddenly from behind the ridge, sweeping across the plateau. Dust spirals upward in thin, dancing columns. Grass bends sharply, bowing toward the monolith, as if acknowledging its presence. The stone hums again, this time louder, a slow, resonant tone that moves through your chest, like standing near a drum carved from mountain stone and struck by an unseen hand. You step back, the eye hollow glints, once, twice, in perfect rhythm with the wind. You breathe out slowly. The monolith breathes with you. You move closer again, until your hand brushes its edge. The stone's surface shifts slightly under your fingertips, not physically, but in temperature. Warm, then cool. Cool, then warm. Nightfall completes its work. The face is clearer now. A gentle curve of forehead, a single deep hollow for one eye. A line, thin but deliberate, suggesting a mouth that has not spoken in centuries. None of it carved, all of it revealed. You sit on a nearby rock, letting the obsidian watchers of the plateau surround you in silence. The stars above widen into a silver river flowing across the sky. One by one, constellations appear. The hunter, the drum, the sleeping bird. Wind brushes your back. A whisper follows, not in sound, but in feeling. You look up. The monolith's eye glimmers, not reflecting starlight, not shining from within, but seeing. The obsidian watcher sees nightfall. It sees travelers. It sees memory unfolding across the plateau. It sees the dark not as absence, but as revelation. You rise slowly and place your hand on the stone once more. This time the hum strengthens. The obsidian warms under your touch. The hollow eye deepens. The curve of the mouth shifts, subtly, gently, like someone exhaling after holding breath too long. The vibration spreads through your arm, up your shoulder, into your chest. You inhale. The stone inhales. You exhale. The stone exhales. The ground beneath your feet softens, not literally, but in presence, as if the earth itself is settling into its oldest memory. Then the wind falls still, the stars brighten, and the stone speaks. Not in voice, not in vibration, but in a warmth that reaches your heart. The warmth inside the obsidian fades to a quiet pulse beneath your palm, then settles deeper within the stone as though retreating into memory. You lower your hand slowly. The plateau, once dim and empty, now feels alive in a way that defies reason. Its silence thick, attentive, profoundly awake. You take a step back. The monolith watches. Not with human sight, not with movement, but with presence. A presence sharpened by nightfall, shaped by centuries of darkness resting upon its surface. The face is clearer now, a curve of shadow resembling a cheek, the deep hollow of an eye, the faintest etching of a mouth softened by time. Yet the expression is not solemn or fierce. It is patient, listening, almost waiting. The wind shifts around your ankles. Behind you, the ridge dissolves into deeper blue darkness as thin clouds drift low against the cliffs. Stars burn brighter overhead. The sky feels closer here, as if the night has folded itself around the plateau and wrapped you inside its quiet arms. A subtle vibration moves beneath your boots. You kneel. At the base of the monolith, the earth has formed a shallow basin, not carved, not deliberate, but shaped by years of wind spiraling around the stone. The basin holds a thin layer of dust, though something beneath it glints faintly in the starlight. You brush aside the dust. Beneath it lies obsidian, not a broken piece, not an extension of the monolith, but a thin sheet, smooth, curved, slightly concave, as though it once held water or reflected something other than the sky. You lift it gently. The stone is warm, almost too warm for the cold night air. And the moment your fingers close around it, the monolith hums. The hum vibrates through the plateau, down into the earth, up into the night sky. A long, low resonance that feels like a voice awakening after lifetimes of silence. You hold the curved obsidian up to the sky. It catches no reflection. Not stars, not moonlight, not your own face. Instead, the surface appears to deepen, pulling the darkness inward, gathering it, holding it like a memory too heavy for daylight. You lower the stone. The monolith's hum calms, settling to a slow rhythm that guides your breath. You walk around to the monolith's far side. Here, the obsidian is different, less reflective, more matte, shaped by wind and occasional rain. Small fissures run through the surface, each one glinting faintly as starlight grazes across them. Your fingers drift over the fissures. Warmth rises, soft, breathing warmth. A faint shimmer unfolds across the stone, not light, not movement, but something between them. You lean closer. The shimmer forms shapes, not carvings, not symbols, not words, but memories, not yours, the stone's. You see night falling across this plateau centuries ago, long before villages flourished in the valleys. You see a figure standing where you stand now, cloaked in fur, leaning on a carved staff. Their silhouette alone in the cold. They place their hands on the monolith. The stone hums, the same hum you feel now. The figure breathes deeply. A wind rises around them, swirling dust into spirals that brush the stone's surface. And then, with each breath, the figure exhales. The obsidian forms shallow curves, hollows, lines. Nightfall itself carves the face. You blink, and the memory dissolves. The fissures fade, the obsidian cools, but the warmth in your hands remains. You hold the curved obsidian piece tighter. The monolith responds. It hums deeper, a tone that folds into your chest and anchors itself beneath your ribs. You step away from the stone, guided by wind tugging gently at your coat. The plateau slopes downward toward a shallow valley where the air grows warmer, thicker, and lined with faint traces of mist that glide low along the ground. You follow the path. The valley floor is covered in smooth basalt tiles, naturally formed by ancient lava flows, but arranged here in a pattern too rhythmic to be coincidence. The stones form gentle arcs, like ripples that once traveled across molten rock. At the center of the valley, a circular pool lies still and dark. You approach it carefully. Its surface reflects nothing, not stars, not sky, not even your silhouette, just darkness, not absence, but depth. You lower the curved obsidian into the pool. The water does not ripple. Instead, the darkness inside the pool pulls upward, not physically but visually, as though the mirror of night has been raised to meet the stone. A faint hum rises from the pool's depths. Then the monolith hums back. The sounds intertwine, two tones, two memories, two parts of the same night. The pool brightens, not with light, with presence. Shapes form beneath the surface, shadows drifting in slow, deliberate movements. You lean closer. A face appears, not carved, reflected. The same face the monolith holds. But here, In the pool, the features are clearer: a full eye, a second eye, a long nose ridge, lips caught between breath and silence. The face rises, not from the water, but from the darkness inside it. Your breath catches. You stand still as wind circles the valley, pulling your coat gently backward. The pool's reflection shifts with each movement, as though the face is turning toward you. Then, a vibration climbs up through the obsidian bowl in your hands. Warm, deep, familiar. The pool's hum grows softer, the monolith hums louder, and the reflection fades, drawn back into the depths of the valley. You lift the curved obsidian from the water. The surface is now warm, alive with a pulsing glow that follows no pattern. You recognize. You walk back toward the ridge. The monolith awaits you in perfect stillness. The night has deepened, stars spread wide, the air filled with ancient quiet. You stand before the obsidian watcher. The moment you hold the curved stone toward it, the monolith brightens in faint, midnight blue shimmer. The hidden face becomes fully visible. Two deep eye hollows, a subtle curve of nose, a long patient mouth, a countenance carved not by tools, but by the weight of night and the breath of time. You step closer. The monolith hums. The obsidian bowl responds. Warmth fills your hands, spreads through your chest, settles behind your heart like a second breath. You place the curved stone gently in the hollow at the monolith's base. It fits perfectly. The hum deepens. The weather shifts. Wind stills. Stars shimmer brighter. Silence thickens like velvet around you. The monolith exhales. A deep, slow breath rolls across the plateau. Gentle, powerful, ancient. The face softens. The stone warms. Night settles with the comfort of memory. And in that warmth, spoken through vibration, echoing through the bones of the mountain, the obsidian watcher gives you its final truth. Night does not hide the world. It reveals the parts that wait to be seen. The hum fades, the stone cools, the sky opens, and the monolith watches you. Quiet, patient, its face carved by nightfall, waiting for whoever comes next to listen. Thank you for wandering these forgotten thresholds with me tonight. If the stones spoke to you in their quiet ways, please like, subscribe, and tell us where and what time you're watching from. Your presence keeps these old places alive in the darkness. Until next time, may the world's silent guardians watch over your sleep.